Hello and welcome to my first ever video on my book channel. Kind of starting to do this because I'm reading a lot more, have a book challenge set up for this year, and want to document my ratings and reviews of the books that I do, more so for myself as a sort of reading journal than anything that is meant to gain traction. I just have always liked a blog type of thing where you put your thoughts out there, but the end goal, what is that? Is that anything? It's shiny. Oh, it's those. Okay. Yeah, I've always liked the idea of like a blog. You putting your ideas out there, somebody could stumble upon them, but that's not necessarily the point of them. It's like a live journal. Anyway, so I have a lot to get through. In my to be read list, the First Law trilogy was on it, or at least The Blade itself. Ended up reading the whole thing. But those were my first three that I read in January. I really, really liked the darkness to the characters. A lot of people describe Joe Abercrombie as dark fantasy, and it is. But what's really dark is the characters and the interactions with other characters. It's not necessarily the darkest world. It's very reminiscent of, medieval Europe, which was dark in its own sense, but it wasn't fantastically dark. It was very grounded in in a realistic darkness. So it was more darkness to the characters' personalities, their thoughts. The world itself was just warring empires, tribes, that sort of thing. That wasn't necessarily dark. So starting with The Blade itself, great world building, a bit slow, almost all the characters I hated, which is kind of the point. Hated is strong, disliked. Except probably Logan. He was pretty cool. Obviously the Bloody Nine, he's a bastard. Before They Are Hanged was my favorite of the series. This whole journey that they went on to the edge of the world, Luther kind of learning that he's a prick and he should probably get his head out of his ass, learn how to fight, that sort of thing. Pharaoh warming up to everybody, the whole group learning, kind of coming out of their shells and warming up to each other instead of, their set values, how they thought about everyone. It was a group of misfits coming together. Classically, they all become friends, kind of, although, they end up hating each other at the end. But this one was great. The conclusion, I didn't like as much as the second one. I found the fight scenes to start to tire a lot. There were so many descriptions of someone getting hit in the head and just blinding lights in every single fight scene, and a lot of this one is fight scenes. It's a good conclusion, but a lot of the descriptive scenes I found to tire. The climactic fight between the wizards and the attacking eaters and those who broke the second law was great. The capital city falling or almost falling, almost like an Alamo type thing, until Colonel West came in from the north. Also, the fight in the north was quite nice, taking down and eventually taking down the king of the Northmen was great. But I don't know, I just found that the climax wasn't quite as good as the middle. And I think Abercrombie's writing style, he's very good at characters and their personalities, their intricacies, the darkness of it. I find he's not as varied in his action scenes. They tend to be very similar, and that got a little bit tiring, at least in this series. I haven't read any of his other works, so and I will definitely. I mean, this was amazing. You know, it was a 3, maybe a little bit higher, a 5 in the middle out of 5, 3 out of 5, 5 out of 5, and a 4 out of 5. So you put that all together, you get a 4 out of 5. I'm definitely going to check out his other work. Then I read this, A History of What Comes Next by Sylvain Neuvel. I mean, I think actually he has a real name. Yeah, James Andrew Rosen. Not sure why he chose Sylvain Neuvel. I had read his other series. Just one second. I have a third one over here. I read his first series, which is the Themis Files. Humanity finds like some big mechs from an alien civilization and build them, put them together, and then the aliens come and say, oh, well, we fucked up, we gave you technology that you shouldn't have, and they try to destroy all humans, and humans have to, fight back. I liked it. Obviously, it was like a dumb sci-fi action thing, but the writing style was very reminiscent of World War Z, and I like that writing style. You know, things are told in files, audio transcriptions, that sort of thing. So it was cool. This one, I didn't finish it. So anything that I don't finish, I do personally give a 1 out of 5. I know that there are people who would love this book. I probably would have loved it when I was 14, 15, but I'm double that age now and not really sure it's not for me. The premise, from what I can tell, is, getting 50% through the book, is that there is a lineage of aliens or non-humans living on Earth who are extremely smart, extremely strong, and just extremely superhuman. They're trying to save the planet Earth from doomsday climate change. They know it's going to happen, so they're trying to build rockets to get everybody off the Earth to go somewhere else, because they know that they won't be able to stop climate change in time. The problem that I have with this book is that it's overly scientific without any point to it. The characters talk in this weird, nobody would ever say things like that in real life. I mean, I'm a science guy, science major in university. I like technical books. I like sci-fi that, goes and extrapolates what's possible. But this is almost just like contextually pointless tidbits of science. No, that's not the right way to say it. What I'm trying to say is that this book kind of suffers from a need to make all of the characters quirky in some way. The main characters, oh, I'm so quirky, look at all of the science that I spout. The villain, oh, I'm so quirky, look at how much I don't care about death. Look at how much I talk about random flowers while I'm killing you. Or, stop and ask you about the news that was going on yesterday while I'm doing a little bit of torture. Like that weird, badly written Joker, like Batman Joker type thing. Like insane, but not insane enough to interfere with the killing and genius that I am. these science people are, they're written like someone who wants everyone to know that they're quirky and knows a lot about science. Instead of just being smart, they tell you little tidbits and facts all the time. And it gets grating. It got really annoying. The main characters, the good guys, the alien, advanced humans, other species, you know, the main characters, they do this thing where they slow down almost like Sherlock Holmes in the Robert Downey Jr. movie, where, like, you know, oh, and then I went for the jugular, but he blocked, so I'm doing this, and then this and this. And they imagine how an entire minute-long fight scene is going to go down, and then they're so fast, they're so superhuman that, you know, they pick up a stick and they use it to kill everybody just by, like, breaking it and stabbing people. And all the while it's in this I'm an unstoppable force perspective, while also being spouting this science like, here's the jugular. It just got grating. And then you throw on top of that the villain is just such an I'm crazy, quirky, look at me, I'm killing people, but I don't care. And the writing just fell apart halfway through the book, and I had to put it down. It's definitely for someone. I picked it up in the adult science fiction section. Honestly, I think it probably should have been in YA, like teen. You know, it's just the writing, it's a little bit too self-indulgent, I think. It doesn't scream maturity. Not that that doesn't mean it isn't good for some people. It's just not what I'm looking for in a book. And anytime I don't finish a book, I will rate it 1 out of 5 for myself. Next, we have The Book Eaters by Sun Yi Dean. I really liked some aspects of this book. I really liked the idea of this book. I did finish it, so, you know, definitely not as bad as this one, but if you can't tell from how I'm starting, it wasn't exactly my favorite. Why did I not like it? I just deleted all my notes on my iPhone because I'm an old man and don't know how to use technology. So I'm trying to do this off of memory, if you can't tell. So I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but it definitely held in its message a lot. It was tied in with The Handmaid's Tale. So the book eaters themselves, they are non-humans that can feed off of books. They get nourishment off of literature, magazines, anything with text in it. Their mythology and possibly how they really were created is they were built by a god to absorb knowledge, and then eventually they would bring that knowledge back to the god. So they're eating books, they're gaining knowledge, it's tasty. Women are much less common in the book eater society, and because of that, they are married off, bought by the other book eater families, essentially, with favors and that sort of thing, and then they have a kid with the someone in that household, and then they're sent back to their household. They're essentially used as incubators for new book eaters, or, you know, like it's very similar to The Handmaid's Tale in the underlying message of women's rights. That is, you know, a great story. The Handmaid's Tale is a classic for a reason. But this has on top of it, or beside it, you know, on top of it, it's the main part, is the book eaters, which are kind of like vampires, and then aside them there are other book eaters who can't eat books. They have to absorb other humans, or they have to absorb humans' brains. So they suck out their brains and they gain the person's knowledge instead of having to eat books. The story is the main character has a kid, steals the kid away from a family, which is illegal in that world. The kid stays with the family. The mother doesn't get to contact the kid, that sort of thing. The kid is a dragon, eats humans' brains. They're called dragons because they have long tongues, I think. I don't really know why other than that. But dragons need to eat. They get really hungry. They'll kill. But there is a drug that one of the families makes, and that can keep the hunger at bay, and then they don't need to eat humans' brains. The main character has to find the family that produces it and get the drug that helps her kid. So there's this like whole espionage plot. There's this whole espionage plot that in the first half of the book like really does open up slowly. You get revealed things in small chunks that keeps you wanting to read. You know, the main character is fairly likable. Her kid is also likable. He gets a few new personalities from like eating different humans along the way. There's a bit of a love story between the main character and another woman from one of the other families, which is nice. One of the weird things, like the main character is 6 feet tall, which like, yeah, is taller than the average woman, but again and again in the book, like 10 to 20 times, the main character seems to be self-deprecating, or she makes comments that are self-deprecating about her height and her physique, which from the descriptions in the book are, you know, I don't know, quite sought after physique. I think it's just the tallness. So that might be the author putting herself into the book. It did seem a little bit weird that it kept coming up, like what, over a couple months, unless you have like really low self-esteem, which I'm not saying, you know, it's a good thing or a bad thing, but like how often do you think? It's just, it's a bit much so often in a short book. I mean, the book's only, it's not even 300 pages, but it's a bit too much. The action scenes are weird and a little bit jarring. There's this one scene where the other woman from another family who's helping the main character out just pulls a gun out of her purse and shoots, I think, 4 enemies directly in the head. But she shoots them and they run away in the same sentence. There's nothing, people stop them, boom, 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 gone. It's too fast, too jarring. The action scenes seem stunted, and the character's power and ability to manipulate the world seems inconsistent. It was a bit like a superhero movie, like a Marvel movie, where like sometimes, you know, they'll get knocked over by a car, and then in the second half of the movie, you know, they're holding up an entire building. It doesn't really make sense. They're superhumans. I mean, they're not humans. They're super beings, but you know, sometimes they're getting hurt by nothing. Sometimes they're bowling through an entire crowd. That inconsistency in power does stop my ability to immerse myself in the story. But like overall, more so, definitely more so than A History of What Comes Next, this book definitely has a place with a lot of people. I know a lot of people loved it. Just not like my type of book. The author might not have been as critical of the writing itself as she should have been, as much as putting themes and tying the story together. But, maybe for a bit of a younger audience, this book would have been great. But I'm giving it a 2 out of 5. Now, lastly, I have the first 2 books in the Empire of the Wolf. I think that's what I called. Maybe it's not, I don't know. So lastly, the first 2 books of the Empire of the Wolf. The next one actually is out now. So I'm very excited for that because I finished The Tyranny of Faith today. The first one definitely started out slow. In the first scene, I actually had, not regret about starting it, but a little bit of unease. I was getting the impressions that the book was going to be just a longer version of that meme, where that guy's just like, are we the baddies? That sort of thing, because the justices roll into a town and it's a bunch of people practicing an old religion, and the justices, who are like sheriffs, lawmen, judges, that sort of thing, they have to prosecute this town for practicing a different religion than is decreed by the empire, or the empire, whatever. The Sovan Empire likes their own creed, which is the Neiman Creed, and any old magic, any old religion isn't allowed to be practiced. So the first few scenes, maybe even the first few chapters, I was a little bit hesitant that it was just going to be this group of justices, this group of characters, realizing that, the old magic, the old ways aren't as bad as they're supposed to be. And I'm not saying that story in itself isn't bad. It's just not what I expected when I picked up this book. I wasn't expecting a Dances with Wolves, an Avatar, that sort of thing. And also, I feel like I've read a lot of those books recently, and I was kind of looking for something else. I was looking for more of a high fantasy, just less ideological or political. But it turned out that it wasn't, which I was relieved about. I was looking to kick back after 2 books that, weren't great and were maybe a little bit more ideological. A History of What Comes Next about climate change, The Book Eaters about women's rights. So I was looking to just watch some men and women just cutting each other with swords, shooting magic, and that's not exactly what it turned out to be, but it was still a good read. The Justice of Kings, actually the entire Empire of the Wolf, follows this guy here. I think it's that guy there, but Sir Conrad von Valt, who is a high justice, a high-ranking judicial member in the Empire. The story is, however, told in first person by his clerk, Helena. And I really like this way of storytelling because you get the main character. Even though Helena's probably the main character, the story is about Conrad. But it's told through someone who is a lot younger than him, hasn't fully realized the scope of the empire and everything that goes on, hasn't fought in any wars, has to slowly realize it through the book, where Conrad he's a hardened war veteran, has been practicing justice for a long time, and I just think the book would be a lot more boring with the events that went on, if there was no struggles of a young mind growing up. It would just be a lawmaker always frowning and, having to do his normal work. All right, so this next part has a lot of spoilers because I was asked by my girlfriend to give her a recap because the next book's coming out. Beware. So the book starts out in this small town. They go and find practicing, like a little village practicing a religion that they're not supposed to. They stop them. He just makes them pay some fines. But there's this priest that gets some knowledge of it. And the priest, Claver, I don't know how to pronounce it, hates it. He's like, you should have killed all these people. They're against our religion. And Conrad's like, why? They're just praying. I'll just have them pay a little fine. That seems like a good thing to do. Claver hates it. After they split up, he eventually gets another big seaside town to come and raid the village, raze it actually to the ground, and kill everybody in it for practicing this religion, which under the Empire's law is technically what you're supposed to do if you don't renounce the old faith. But Claver, this little maniac, fucking hates it, so he goes and says, "I'm gonna kill everybody." Oh, no, I don't know if I'm supposed to swear. Who knows? Anyway, so Conrad, Helena, and Bressinger, Conrad's like fighting man, his task man, the hands-on guy, they have to go to this other town, little city, to carry out a trial, an investigation actually on a murder that has gone down over some... Sorry, I'm just checking out the map. Beep, 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 beep. Galen's Vale. So yeah, the group, Conrad, Helena, Bressinger, they have an investigation to do about some murders and some mercantile crimes, just white collar crimes essentially in the fantasy world. So they head to this place called Galen's Vale, meet up with the sheriff, Sir Radomir, and do some investigation. There are a lot of people working, a lot of characters in this part that they go to in Galen's Vale, but essentially someone's wife has just turned up in the river dead, and they're investigating the murder. So this man, his wife has been murdered. Turns out that he is being extorted by a group of church associates, Templars, and generals who are trying to move against the Empire. Their trading scheme and insurance scheme has essentially given the Templars and the enemies of the Empire quite a bit of money, and this guy whose wife was murdered didn't want to be part of it anymore, so they killed his wife, and then we find out that they have also kept his daughter imprisoned in the cloister of the church near Galen's Vale. So Helena goes on a little bit of a espionage mission. She She pretends that she wants to join the Kloster in the church and infiltrates to find this girl. She eventually uncovers the whole plot, the details of the scheme and the blackmail and keeping this guy's daughter in prison, the killing of his kid, all these things, by some notes that she finds in the head priest's room. She suspects that the head priest is part of it because he's sketchy. He's sketchy. So finds out some stuff about it, but ends up trusting a girl who is in the church a little bit too much. The girl snitches on Helena, and Helena gets thrown in prison, where she finds the guy's daughter, the man whose wife died. She finds his daughter in prison in the church, and does she escape or is she rescued? Huh. Right. She's being held in prison, and Von Volt and the group go and break her out of prison. They kill some people, they break her out, but in doing so and capturing some prisoners to take them to justice, like the leaders of the scheme, the generals who are going against the Empire catch word of it and start moving an army towards Galen's Vale. The last part of this book, or the penultimate part of this book, the climax of this book is a battle with the general's army, which has general's unit, which has about like 500 men, attacking Galen's Vale, which has about 100. Some shit goes down. Galen's Vale, one of the watchmen opens the gates because the general says, we'll spare you, but they just end up ransacking and killing, most of the watch and most of the town. It's a shitty thing for that guy to do. Obviously, he was going to come in and kill everyone. In that battle, Von Volt's old lover also gets imprisoned in a fox. She has fox. She can, go into the minds of animals. She gets imprisoned and her body dies, or her mind is severed from her body. So he's pretty sad about that. The kind of epilogue to this book is them journeying back to the capital to tell the emperor about what they found, the scheme against the empire, and all that good stuff. I initially gave it a 4 out of 5, but I think I'm going to lower it down to a 3 out of 5 now that I've read 3.5 out of 5 now that I've read the rest, now that I've read the second book. It is, the pacing for me in the first 2/3, maybe even 3/4, was just very slow. The world building was nice, but compared to how much the world opened up in the second book, I have to lower it a bit. The Tyranny of Faith picks up pretty much where the last book left off. They get to the Empire. Conrad is welcomed back after years on the road as a traveling justice. He gives the information to the Emperor. The Emperor says, yeah, we realize that this was happening, and part of your order, in fact, the leader of your order might have had some things to do about it, especially to do with this priest, Claver, one of the antagonists from the first book, gaining some powers. The leader of the justices, Cadlec, has been handing over some secrets on how to use the old magics. So the emperor says, we're going to get rid of him, we're going to throw him in prison, and you, von Walt, are going to be the new leader of the justices. Von Walt goes on a bit of a cleaning of house thing. He gets rid of everyone who has been involved in the scheme to help out the rebellious generals who are going against the empire, makes it so that the Order of Justices is people more or less loyal to the emperor. And then right when he's done that and he's about to move on to move against Claver and the generals who are further out, the emperor's grandson, the second in line to the throne, a prince, goes missing. And the emperor tells von Walt that he has to investigate and he has to find this out. Meanwhile, von Walt is getting sick, actually more and more sick as the days goes past. Nobody knows what's going on with him. Nobody knows how to cure him. All of the physicians, herbalists, all these people, they can't do anything. He finds out that it is actually a hex that has been put on him by the antagonist priest, Claver, and will eventually drain him of all his life force and he will die. Claver has stolen the book that has the spell or ritual to break the hex, and von Walt doesn't know it by heart, so he has to go and find Claver. But the emperor is not allowing him to go and get Claver. He has to find the emperor's son first. So he goes on an investigation, finds out that there's a ransom for the kid, the prince. He goes and they deliver some gold to a ship out in the middle of nowhere, board the ship in an infiltration excursion, find the guy that says that he killed the kid, and bring all that information back to the emperor, and they go on their way to go to Claver. On their journey to go south to get the book back, von Walt gets more and more sick. Eventually, he can't go any further, and he trusts the task to Bresinger, Helena, and Sir Radomir. Sir Radomir has now joined their party as part of von Walt's group. Helena and Sir Radomir pose as Templars to infiltrate the castle and army that Claver has amassed in the south. The book is being held in the castle that these Templars are staying in. They're riding down the road as Templars, and someone comes up to him and says, where are you going? Like, get to the front lines now. There's about to be a battle. So Helena and Sir Radomir take place in what is apparently one of the more bloodier battles in the downfall of the empire, the wars that are going on in this era. The battle ends. Helena wakes up after being quite tired. She wakes up in an infirmary, or kind of like a war hospital in the basement. Goes through some, gets up, goes through some like a sewage tunnel, kind of, but it's flowing water, so it's more just like an underground river. Goes through an underground river, gets to an inner sanctum, steals the book that she needs to break the spell, tries to escape, but in doing so has to go through the book. She's not very good at magic. In fact, she's never done it before, but she goes through the book, tries to incant or do a ritual, but actually just summons a bunch of pretty fucking sick demons. So the demons start ravaging the castle. Sir Radomir and Helena escape with Bresinger's help. He's waiting outside the castle, or just inside, to help them get out. But one of the demons kills Bresinger, which sucks. He was one of my favorite characters. He only had one arm at this point, but he was still a good swordsman. It was sick. Then Sir Radomir and Helena go back to the castle station that Von Waltz is in. He's actually pretty much dead now. He has performed some rituals on himself that like prolongs his soul, but his body, it's, you know, it's gray. It's looking not great. Helena goes into his brain, and this is where, like, you know, this whole part of this book is why I like it a lot more than that one. It gets really eldritch. She deals with beings from other planes, other dimensions. They're, you know, these beings that she can't quite describe. They might be gods. Maybe they're just normal beings in the astral plane. Who knows? But they have connection to her world, to the main world. But they're, you know, they're incredibly powerful, incredibly dangerous, and Helena has to go into this astral plane and fight them, interact with them, break the curse that has one of these beings holding onto Von Waltz and taking his life force. So she goes into Von Waltz's mind. Well, not really. She goes into the astral plane through Von Waltz as an anchor, breaks the curse, but almost doesn't. You don't really know until she wakes up like a couple days, maybe a week later, and Von Waltz alive. They're on their way back to the capital. Von Waltz good. Claver has been thwarted a little bit. All of his books have been burned. He can't really get stronger without them. Breziniger's dead, which sucks. They think that they've solved the crime with the prince and his death. Von Waltz is healthy again. They're on the way back to the capital, and boom, they get arrested. Essentially, there has been people working in the capital that have told everyone that Von Waltz and Helena have broken quite heavy laws while they were away. They wanted the person who killed the prince to be tortured and executed publicly, which Von Waltz said no, he didn't. He wanted them to be questioned. And while they were away, the prince, who everyone thought was dead, showed up. Boom. Turned out to be a plot with the prince's, like, that side of the family, and the rebel generals and all these people. They're essentially tearing apart the capital from the empire from within, from the capital. Von Waltz and Helena and Sir Radomir get thrown in prison, and they're being tortured. The capital is falling apart. The order of justices is no longer going to be a thing. Law is going to be practiced and held together by the church. And it's not good. It's not good. The book ends with some allies of Von Waltz freeing them from prison and them escaping, hopefully to form a small army that can take out Claver and the church, who wants to use their powers to control everyone. So I really, really like this book. Not a 5 out of 5. Although, you know what? I gave this a 5 out of 5 before they are hanged. And if I gave that a 5 out of 5, I also have to give this a 5 out of 5. But I think it's actually a 9 out of 10. 4 out of 5. 4.5 out of 5. And I'm going to do the same with this one. But that's just, that's the story.